Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our analysis of every one of Angron's Primarch Duels, as we look to see if his legendary reputation was deserved or not. A general spoiler warning to begin here, as today I will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, including the Horus Heresy series. So you have been warned. But with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Okay, so in part 1 of our conversation earlier this week, we took a look at the two earliest Primarch fights we saw Angron have within the Horus Heresy series. The first his flashback duel against Leman Russ, and the second against Roboute Guilliman during the Shadow Crusade. The Russ one is a little trickier as we only get to see the aftermath of it, and there's situations at play such as Russ not being allowed to kill Angron that we have to consider. But it is undoubtedly Angron who stands triumphant in it. And against Guilliman, Angron really was about to end him for good, having him battered and broken upon the ground. With Lorgar feeling Guilliman would be lucky to ever walk again. And so for me, in taking a look at these duels, we can really see why Angron was rightly feared as an opponent. And yes, feared may not be quite the right word that I'm looking for, but you get the meaning. Angron lived up to his reputation in every way. We had seen him face two fellow Primarchs, and he won them both. So, going into his demonic ascension, he really was at his height in terms of reputation. And that elevation was only going to give him a further boost of titanic proportions, making him quite possibly the most feared being on the side of the War Master. And so, it would be in his demonic state that his next Primarch duel would come, and it would be against the Hammer of Olympia, Pertuabo, within the heresy novel Slaves to Darkness by author John French. Here, tasked by the War Master to bring Angron back to the main war effort, Pertuabo would track the World Eaters down and descend with his legion to meet them. There Pertuabo would form his legion forces into an immense iron circle of defence, and await the onrushing charge of the World Eaters to come. And they wouldn't disappoint. It's an interesting duel, and a very clever one from Pertuabo's perspective, as he uses the resolve, tenacity, and sheer tactical expertise of the Iron Warriors to outsmart and in truth annihilate their rage-blinded cousins. Pertuabo would deny them the blood they craved through sheer defence, holding back within his tightly knit iron circle, before finally unleashing the Legion's firepower once Angron himself arrived. Angron would begin by slamming his axe into Pertuabo's shoulder, ending the contest before it had even begun. Or at least so you would think. Because unbelievably, the Lord of Iron just straight up tanked the blow, like an absolute boss. His sight cleared, Pertuabo still stood. Impossibly, the Lord of Iron stood. Glowing scars marked the plates of his armour. Blood hissed as it ran over orange iron. But he stood, and Forgebreaker was rising in his grasp, its head a comet as it swung. Angron did not move to avoid the blow. He was swinging again, roaring, blood-slicked cables lashing around his head. Like all the other blows he had struck in the last second, it was faster than the eye that saw it, but Pertuabo had timed his blow and slid it into the split-second gap as Angron swung back to strike again. The hammer struck. forged by Fulgrim for the brother he had murdered, then given by Horus to Pertuabo. It was a weapon that transcended even the craft put into its making. The hammerhead hit Angron's chest. Brass armour shattered. The shockwave ripped outwards. Argonis felt it pass through him. Angron staggered. Pertuabo stepped forwards, the hammer swinging back in a blurred sheet of lightning. Angron rammed forwards before Pertuabo could strike, and now it was Pertuabo going back. Armour blackening as furnace flame breathed from Angron's teeth. The axe struck again and again, blows that could end Titans falling. Fresh wounds opened in Pertuabo's armour, but still he stood. "You think I am weak?" Pertuabo's voice boomed from the grill of his helm. Angron struck him twice again. Splinters of metal fell from the Lord of Iron as he staggered once more. "But you have grown weaker, Angron." The demon Primarch lashed a kick into Pertuabo and struck once, twice, 3 times as the Lord of Iron stumbled back and crashed to his knees. "I have learnt. I have remade my strength, while you have sold yours out of despair." Argonis heard the words and heard the spite in them, the cold bitterness. There was something else there too. Something that made Argonis think of the knife duels in the dark warrens of Cophonia. Cuts meant to goad, not kill. Angron roared, and in the fraction of time that gave, Pertuabo was on his feet, Forgebreaker moving faster than before. The air shook as its head struck again and again, and there was blood on the baked mud of the ground beneath the two. Angron was scattering burning blood and broken armour. He lashed a fist at Pertuabo. Claws tore the front of the Lord of Iron's helm. Pertuabo's skin was pale grey streaked with blood beneath. "You are weak," snarled Pertuabo. "You are a slave. You were born a slave, and a slave you remain." And for all Angron's blows here, I've got to be honest, this one is an absolute beatdown. This is Pertuabo's showpiece, proving to the galaxy that he, the underappreciated Primarch, the forgotten Primarch, is not to be taken for granted. That he can face any foe, face any storm, and come out the victor. And it's one of my favourite face-offs in all of the Heresy, and just reminds me of why I enjoyed our Pertuabo week so much when I did it all those years ago. I mean, can you imagine if the Imperium still had this Pertuabo? If the Emperor still had his Lord of Iron? Man, what an asset that would be. And I know we're talking about Angron here, but you've got to give credit where credit is due. Pertuabo went to face a demon-elevated Angron, who had beaten 2 Primarchs before his ascension, who was feared universally, and now was more powerful than ever, and he didn't even blink. It's a tricky one for Angron really, because he loses primarily to being outsmarted, which was always a problem because of the nails, let alone now. Pertuabo knew that Angron needed the slaughter, that without it he would weaken, and so he denied him and his legion all of it, in what can only be described as a masterpiece. And Pertuabo himself would sum it all up perfectly, as he just continued to beat his demon brother down. "Your strength flees," roared Pertuabo. "It does not belong to you. It is your master's, and the chain that keeps you throttles you." Angron takes immense amounts of damage, and it really shows you how much stronger and lethal he potentially has become. But Pertuabo just denies him all of it. And so honestly, it really is quite possibly one of the most one-sided victories in all the Heresy. Definitely one of the most impressive, that is for sure. And I think for me, personally, this is probably the biggest blow to Angron's reputation as a fighter, most likely because I enjoy this duel so much. And again, I really think Pertuabo sums it up best, that for all Angron's newfound strength, he now has a newfound weakness too. And that cost him here, and cost him dearly. Seeing Pertuabo completely outsmart him a bit, akin to the Rust duel, is a bit of a repeating theme. The blindness of that rage, that it can be exploited. So it does show how Angron can easily be outsmarted. However, with Pertuabo tanking those immense blows too, I've got to be honest here, I don't think Angron would have fared much better before his elevation either. Maybe, but I just don't see it. I think Pertuabo had his number, and is hugely disrespected. So all in all, not the best of starts for Angron in his newfound demonic form. And next of course, is the big one. The duel against the Angel before the Eternity Gate. And this took place within Echoes of Eternity. I remember passionately calling for this fight years ago, that Sanguinius needed to face and defeat Angron before facing the War Master, to give Sanguinius that awe-inspiring victory, that moment of triumph before the sacrifice against the War Master. And this is another tricky one for Angron. Sanguinius still just the mortal human Primarch he was meant to be, not embraced and ascended by any other higher power. And to top it off, exhausted from non-stop days of fighting, and literally just defeating the greater demon Kabanda, as Angron just came crashing down to fight him. But I definitely think Angron gets a better showing here than against Pertuabo, empowered as he is by the slaughter of the siege. But admittedly, it's more Sanguinius delivering blow after blow, and Angron just keeping on coming. But Angron has become more evolved now into the monster that he's become, and less the Primarch he was before. Angron's mouth is still open when the spear, hurled from the Angel's left hand, strikes. It shatters most of the demon's teeth, severs his tongue at the throat root, and punches through the back of his head. With the cervical segments of his spine reduced to ectoplasmic chunks, Angron falls, boneless, stunned from the sky. The Angel twists in the smoke and follows his brother down. Angron hits the Royal Ascension with cratering force at the heart of the two warring legions. His impact kills almost 100 warriors on both sides, but this is another concern outside the shreds of his sentience. The surviving World Eaters cheer him through the dust. They bay at him like loyal hounds, but he knows nothing outside his own fury. He claws at the spear, he roars around its impaling length. In these helpless seconds, he's beast stupid in sound and action, thrashing in the dirt. The lance comes free, slick with the ichor pretending to be blood, gobbets of demonic flesh sizzling on its silver surface. Already the demon is reforming, reknitting, sustained by whatever metaphysical process fuel his existence. The Lord of the Red Sands throws the weapon away in time to meet its wielder. The Angel descends with a silence that stinks of false righteousness, as though he were a creature too enlightened to feel rage. The brothers collide in the crater they made. Around them, the battle for the Eternity Gate rages. The World Eaters are coming, the World Eaters and the Life Takers, and the Blood Letters. Sanguinius senses them draw near, hears their howling. Angron sees this awareness dawn in his brother's eyes. Sanguinius hacks and hacks and hacks as the snarls of chain axes and demon blades grow louder. It isn't enough. The Angel launches away, a crack of his wings carrying him upward. The Lord of the Red Sands knows he can't catch Sanguinius in the sky. He scrambles for the fallen spear, draws it back, and this time there is no chase. This time, Angron is ready. He throws the spear, still slathered in ichor from when he tore it out his own throat. The second he casts it, it rips through the air with a concussive drumbeat, breaking the sound barrier. The angel rolls aside with the grace of the skyball, dodging this streak of bladed intent. No, Angron sees, not dodging. Faster than the human eye can follow, the angel has caught his spear as it passed, rolled with the momentum, and now he casts it back to the ground with a cry of effort. Angron will catch it, this twig of a thing, and he clutches nothing but air, and the force of a meteor hits him in the chest, throwing him down, pinning him to the warp-stained ground. For several unreal seconds, the Lord of the Red Sands is impaled in place, speared through the chest. There is no pain, only humiliation. When you read through the entirety of this duel, it is a cat and mouse chase, with Angron, the massive beast, just pursuing, hunting Sanguinius, but with Sanguinius delivering blow after blow that would have ended his life time and again, pre-ascension. As seen here, one of the most clear-cut examples. And so, as I said, for me, it's really the definitive moment of that Primarch of old, being left behind. So much that the name Angron in truth no longer has any meaning for the demon that he's become, because it's really impossible to see the same being within. There is no skill here, no tactics, no blademanship, certainly no honour. It's just a maddened, savage rampaging at a prey. And so that theme begun in the contest against Pertuabo continues, elevates, continues to evolve. And in some sense, the respect had for the Primarch that was Angron is gone, but in a way replaced by the beast he's become. Not fearing an Angron as a warrior any longer, but instead fearing the sheer power and destruction of the demon. It's sad in a way that the barest traces of the personality left, somewhere deep within, only return when it's too late, when he's gazing into his one-time brother's eyes, as the angel rips the nails from his brain. On the battlefield below, the legions duel in the rain of their Primarch's blood. The Lord of the Red Sands, Angron. I remember now. I am Angron. Feels his skull creaking, stretching, then a crack that paints the back of his eyes with acid. It's the cracking of a slowly breaking window, the crack of a skull under a tank's treads. He hears his brother now, Sanguinius's ragged hisses of breath, coming in time to the scrape of his gauntlet against the pain engine's mechanical tendrils. Their eyes meet, and there is no mercy in the angel's pale gaze. Sanguinius is lost to the passions he has always resisted. The Lord of the Red Sands sees it in the pinpricks of his brother's pupils, in the ivory grind of his brother's fangs. The angel has lost himself to the blood need, and veins show starkly blue on his cheeks. This is wrath. This is the angel unleashed. So in 2 duels post-ascension, Angron has faced 2 losses, both of them pretty definitive. Yes, he hurt Sanguinius, perhaps mortally, but if it wasn't for his demonic form empowered to its max, he would have most likely had been banished several times over. But again, I think we can really see now how it just isn't the same Primarch anymore. That we just can't compare the Angron pre- and post-ascension. And this would be further reinforced by his meeting of Lion El'Jonson 10,000 years later, in the Arcs of Omen event, when the two would meet in battle upon the demonic world of Wormwood, where Angron can no longer even register or recognise one of his brothers. Through it all battled Angron and the Lion. El'Jonson was disgusted by his former brother's hideous form, contemptuous of the monster Angron had made of himself. Yet he did not underestimate the supernatural might that Dark Apotheosis had granted the Demon Primarch. The Lion fought with every iota of skill he possessed, channeling all the lessons he had ever learned about combating wild and warp-tainted beasts. For his part, Angron felt little beyond the furious pounding of the butcher's nails. He dimly recognised the Lion, but El'Jonson was just another foe to be slain. An eternity of unending rage and hate had blunted the Red Angel's capacity to revile one enemy more than any other. Angron would take his once brother's head for Khorne, just as he had taken those of so many of the Lion's gene sons already this day. And El'Jonson would employ a similar tactic to Sanguinius here, falling back and evading Angron as much as possible, and then countering with decisive blows. His newfound ability to disappear and emerge from the mists of old Caliban, particularly useful. The Lion smiled mirthlessly, for here was the perfect environment for the culmination of his strategy. He faded into the smog an instant ahead of Angron, who howled with fury to find his opponent vanished. The Red Angel was now apoplectic, though incapable of feeling fatigue. Angron was not accustomed to the mounting frustration of fighting one opponent for so long, while they maintained a relentlessly defensive stance. He had claimed no skulls, and shed only the merest drops of blood for what felt like an eternity. The insistent pounding of the butcher's nails suffused his being with white-hot agony. His capacity for reason had been drowned in molten fury and pain. To find his foe vanish then was near unbearable. Angron could scent the Lion's potent biology and the lapping powders of his armour. He could hear the Primarch's heartbeats, his footfalls, the servo whine of his battle plates. He glimpsed the furnace-like beacon of El'Jonson's soul burning in his warp sight. Yet the phantasmic smog occluded even Angron's demonic senses. The Lion, for his part, had less trouble keeping track of a foe that roared and snarled oaths and imprecations with every heaving breath. Angron hacked at half-imagined geists and bellowed with rage. In response, the Lion surged suddenly from the flank and struck with the Emperor's shield, sending Angron recoiling into the air with wings beating. The demonic Primarch lunged, but El'Jonson was gone again into the fumes. Angron thundered after his prey. Again the Lion evaded, struck, and faded back from his enemy's lightning-fast counterattack. In his mind, he fought monsters again in the mist-reefed Calibanite forests. The few times Angron landed a blow, the Emperor's shield was always there to block it and send the Demon Primarch reeling back. So you can see and feel the similarities here, with El'Jonson particularly benefiting by having the Emperor's shield to reflect back Angron's blows, kind of in a way being a merge of Sanguinius and Pertuabo before, the evading and countering of the Angel, and then the outright tanking durability of the Hammer of Olympia. And we can actually see an instinctive repetition of tactics used by all of the Primarchs here, in each three of the post-ascension fights. The letting of Angron come to them, and exploiting that rage against him, wearing him down until the decisive blow can be delivered. And I really think that is the evidence that we need to show that Angron was perhaps more rightly feared, more rightly respected, as the warrior he was before. For yes, he still had the butcher's nails, was at the mercy of them, but he was still a man, still had that part of himself that was his own, that could recognise his brothers, understood tactics, as much as he despised them. The becoming of the beast really eradicated that last part of intelligence, for want of a better word, that Angron had. Yes, he is more powerful now, far more durable, immortal in truth, and so is more rightly feared. But he has lost that small something that made him what he was. Recognition, awareness, perhaps his Primarch essence. Not being able to truly understand the brother he now faces, the small details and personalities that makes them up, is a huge loss in my opinion. And so that gives the Primarchs who face him a particular advantage. Because let's be honest here, is Angron really much different to a Bloodthirster now? More powerful for sure, but that's about it in my opinion. He's certainly nowhere near the likes of Magnus or Mortarion, for example. He has become the embodiment of his own torture. And so, all in all, while I think Angron is rightly feared for his destructive potential still, I think the respect he had as a fighter ended with his ascension. The man he was respected as a fighter. The beast he has become is feared for his destruction. And that is why, plot armor aside of course, he has lost all 3 of his jewels since. Because for all the man he was may have been weaker, he was a warrior. But as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think of the respect for Angron as a fighter? Like me, do you see a definite difference between the man, the Primarch, and the demon, or not? Do you think Angron has lost the respect but gained the fear? Or do you think he is more respected now for his potential? Has he just happened to come up against bad matchups post-ascension? Primarchs who perhaps are particularly suited to taking him down? And do you think it would have turned out very differently if he had met some others? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.